I love it when apps feel super smooth and fluid. Just like water moving around in a glass. The key to making apps feel fluid is, of course, animations. But not just any animations. In this video, I'm going to show you the secret of how to use animations properly to make your apps feel fluid just like water. But before we dive in, let me give you a quick tour through the animations that I use in my own apps to show you what I mean.
This timer uses a water surface as a progress bar, and it reacts to gravity, imitating the behavior of real water. Notice how the button reacts when it's being tapped. When a unit is selected, there is a smooth transition. When switching time units from minutes to seconds, the page turns in a very fluid way. Even the dismissal of the sheet conveys the same kind of satisfying feeling. Notice how the seconds are counting down very gently. They overshoot the baseline and then snap back into position. Isn't this satisfying? Now let's have a look at this tally counter app. It's called Count on Me. It uses the same design language and the same animations as the timer app that you saw before. When resetting a counter, it snaps a little heavier, indicating a destructive action. Notice how the scroll view bounces when it reaches the top. When toggling the counter type between counting up and counting down, the arrow animates in the same fashion. When selecting a different color, the little color dots animate very gently. And when inserting a counter into the existing view, the animation is also very smooth. And the same when switching positions or deleting a counter.
What do all these animations that you just saw have in common? They're not just any animations, they're all spring animations. They all use the same kind of timing curve. What does that mean? An animation changes a value or multiple values over time. For example, if this is a button, we could change its horizontal position, its X value, from here to here. So an animation transitions a property from one discrete value to another discrete value. And it does that gradually over time in very small steps, in very small increments. And the velocity at which this thing is happening, at which the change is happening at any given time, that is described by the animation's timing curve. And that's where all the magic is happening. Modern UI frameworks provide the option to adjust an animation's timing curve and typically provide a couple of presets. Let's have a look at the timing curve presets that SwiftUI provides on iOS.
I made a little app for this to visualize how these different timing curves feel. The linear timing curve is just a straight line. It doesn't have an acceleration and a deceleration. And that's why this animation doesn't feel fluid. It has a hard start and a hard end. That's different with the ease in, ease out timing curve. It starts slowly, then it accelerates, and then it decelerates at the end. It slows down. And for that reason, this animation already feels a little smoother. But it's not quite it. It's still not fluid. And that changes with a spring animation. You can see the curve looks quite different. And when looking at the animation, this is suddenly where you get the feeling of satisfaction. This is very pleasing to look at, right? And then there's a very similar type, another preset called Snappy. I'm not sure if you can spot the difference, but there is a subtle difference. The Snappy animation is a little snappier, a little faster. The bouncy timing curve is different. It overshoots the final value of the animation and then it bounces back to it. You can also add some extra bounce with a parameter to make this overshoot a little bit more extreme, as you can see in the diagram here. When you look at the animation, this looks super satisfying. And that is true for all these highlighted animations These timing curves are all different kinds of spring animations, and that's what gives you this feeling of fluidity.
Feel the difference? So, why are spring animations so satisfying? Well, in physics, almost everything is about waves, because waves are all around us. And mathematically, a wave can be described by a sine function or a cosine function. It doesn't really matter. And a sine function can be generated by a point going in circles. And this might not be very scientific, but I would argue that we humans feel the roundness of the circle. We feel its smoothness in the animation. So, if you want to make your app feel super smooth, like a liquid, there's one simple solution. Use consistent spring animations all across your app. Apple introduced spring animations as the default on iOS 17 in 2023. So when you adopt spring animations, not only do you make your app feel super smooth, but you also make it feel at home on iOS, just like an app from Apple. I hope you liked this video with a look behind the scenes. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're interested in this kind of content. And if you were hooked by the apps that you saw in this video, you can actually get them on the App Store for free. They're both completely free. They come with no advertisement whatsoever. I'll put the links in the description. They're called Count on Me, that's the tally counter app, and Prime Timer, that's the timer app, obviously. Thanks for watching. You're awesome.